this is crazy. It's supposed to be healthcare.
And it was just mind-boggling. There's such a great opportunity to lead in this space.
Find a partner that meets your needs.
Put yourself in the patient's shoes.
And when patients understand, patients are happy.
Organizations that succeed in this are going to be the ones that bring in RCM.
We're always looking for chances to do better.
The problem in our industry is
all right. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining. Today, we have another Vendor Voices episode. We're joined by Mike Esworthy, Chief Strategy Officer of EnableComp. Mike, how you doing?
Doing great. Excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. As is always the case with these episodes, we start off right away with our Snapshot challenge. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Here we go. Number one, who is EnableComp?
EnableComp is the leading vendor in complex claims. We've earned a reputation at tackling the most challenging claims in the RCM landscape. Our mission is quite simply to uncover what others miss and turn our clients' dollars into the highest possible ROI that they can achieve.
All right. And who does EnableComp serve?
We are predominantly focused on acute care hospitals. We're currently partnered with over 1,000 hospitals and health systems nationwide, and we do some work on the ASC market as well.
It's a big number. Question number three, what problem is EnableComp solving?
Put simply, we maximize revenue for hospitals. There's, 20% of the RCM category that drives 80% of the cost, and that's where we focus our time.
All right. Question number four, how is EnableComp solving that problem?
We manage the complex claims, complex denials, and complex revenue recovery on behalf of our clients. We've taken 25 years of specialized expertise, an expansive data set, and a focus on AI-driven technology to go deliver what we're calling complex revenue intelligence. And what that means for clients and for us is that not only are we working these claims to the quickest and most efficient degree possible, but we're providing root cause analysis and upstream insights to our clients so that they can be more successful. And we view ourselves long-term more as a partner to the health systems than a vendor.
All right. Last question. How is EnableComp solving that problem differently?
So I think it starts with the CRI that I just brought up. That is the culmination of 25 years of focus in the space, a high degree of focus on technology, and I think ultimately what we're delivering where others are not is three things: detection, resolution, and prevention. So if you look across the EnableComp history, we recover $3 billion annually for our clients. We deliver cash uplift of 20%. We've got national coverage in all 50 states. We're Black Book's #1. All the accolades aside, what we are is a value-added partner for providers and create more cash uplift and better insights than anyone else in the market.
All right, Mike. Well said. That was pretty seamless. That was pretty easy. You got through that quick. I imagine our listeners appreciate that. So hard part's over. Mike, let's go ahead and tell the audience a little bit more about you.
Sure thing. Born and raised Nashville, Tennessee. IU graduate for undergrad. I'm sure we'll get into that. Vandy for MBA, so I'm sure we'll talk about them too. And I've been working in the revenue cycle space for the last 10 years. I started my career in the clearinghouse world and have been the Chief Strategy Officer at EnableComp for the last 4 years.
Yeah, we got to talk about Indiana because, this, I don't know when this will get published, but we're recording on January 16th. And both of us, we were saying before we click record, we're celebrating some pretty exciting football victories. Mike, what's going on with your Hoosiers right now?
It is a thing that I never thought I would see happen, to put it simply. 4 years of undergrad, I think I saw 5 victories while I was there. Honestly, all I can say about it is it's a testament to putting the right leadership in place, the right team, and executing a strategy. And frankly, that applies to anything in life, not just football.
Look at that. Nice way to bring it back. I like it, Mike. And I'll plug Chicago for the Chicagoans listening. I mean, that last Sunday game against the Packers may have been, and I've watched a lot of NFL games in my days. That may have been the most exciting football game I've ever watched. Still on a high. We'll see if we can get it done against the Rams this Sunday.
My wife is from Chicago. Her dad is a diehard, and I'm sure this household will be rooting for them too.
I love to hear it. The more the merrier. So that's some recent stuff here in early 2026. I know you've done a couple other recently exciting things. One, I just saw an acquisition. What was
Yeah.
that, last week, this week? So it looks like EnableComp made a big acquisition of HROI. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, that's super exciting. It's phenomenal partnership, and I think as I mentioned at the top of our call here, we're really focused on those three core areas of complex claims. And so, what HROI will do for us is add a heavy focus in clinical denials as well as DRG validation. They have a long history of great execution, great partnership with clients, and it's been a perfect marriage of the two businesses.
That's good to hear. And congratulations to you and to them. I'm excited to see where those synergies grow. And then the last thing I know that you just got back from, did you get back last night?
Last night,
Last night. So Mike was at the 44th annual JP Morgan Healthcare Conference. I was not there, but I've been keeping a close eye on it. And I think it'd be fun to tell our listeners what you saw there. So Mike, give us the download for those of us who couldn't make it.
yeah, no, happy to. Great weather this year, so that was a nice turn of events compared to years past. But healthcare remains very, very top of mind for investors. I think there's a lot of excitement out there. Most notably, I think as it relates to RCM, is the shift in the conversation around AI. I think historically the AI conversations were maybe a bit pie in the sky, and I think what I saw this past week was extremely grounded, very focused, and people had clearly spent a lot of time developing the understanding of how you apply AI, that it is in fact a tool, and that hospitals, providers, vendors, whoever you're talking to, the impetus is on them to go find the ways to use those tools to unlock the value. And companies that perform that are winning in this market and winning in the investor community.
Yeah, I think we were certainly seeing that in at least the second half of 2025. It feels to me like the shift is a year of it's no longer if AI will change healthcare and more specifically for me and our audience revenue cycle.
Hmm.
It's who will do it, when will they do it, how will they do it,
Absolutely.
and then from what I think about every day in terms of vendor selection, I think, and I'm here for it. I think providers are going to want to see the receipts, right? So vendors listening, if you're selling technology, bring your cases, bring your references, bring your graphs that show this actually worked.
Yeah.
Go talk to Ryan. We brought it to his organization and we started bringing in, what has EnableComp done? 3 billion and
Yeah.
like, so
You're
bring the
100%
receipts.
correct. No,
Yeah.
and honestly, it's I think it's even deeper than that. I think that if you really want to be a good partner with the providers, it's not enough to just provide the receipts, as you said, but it's provide the why. Like, why does it matter to them? And so if you're not providing better insights, better data, better partnership, you're still just service for money, right? So I think there's more than just the receipts back, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think that's good. I think that's good. Anything else you found particularly interesting, surprising, or think our listeners should hear about?
Not much for RCM, but I can tell you that this year was very heavy pharma and biotech focused. So for anyone paying attention to the AI arms race, I think that's where the quick wins are happening right now.
Yeah, that's what I saw too. I didn't look into it much just because not as relevant for me, but maybe interesting for all of us as individuals as
Yeah,
the technology actually changes actual healthcare and not just the business of healthcare, which is what I focus on. And I think probably all of our listeners do. So that's
for
exciting in a
sure.
different way.
No, I mean the pace of adoption is accelerating, right? So I can only imagine that is kind of a good leading indicator for the conversation we'll have next year on RCM.
January 2026.
I know.
Mike's talking about next year already. I
Yeah.
man, but I think about like how exponential the growth is with AI and like wow, a year from now, my mind is blown. I can't even
Yep.
imagine what the world is going to look like next year. And some of it's scary. I'm not gonna lie. let's bring this back to, we've used the word complex quite a few
Yep.
times, and I'm going to oversimplify, but my take on EnableComp, let's call it a few years ago, even before some of these acquisitions, when I thought complex and EnableComp, I thought specifically complex claims. You've grown outside of just complex claims. What are you calling it now? Complex?
We'll call it complex revenue is I think
Complex
the
revenue
broader term that we're
intelligence.
going to apply.
Yeah.
To elaborate on that a little bit, I think traditional complex claims has always been thought of as kind of, the four core products, right? So it's veterans claims, workers' comp claims, motor vehicle claims, and out-of-state Medicaid claims. And so that was kind of the original segment. I think the terminology that the market's familiar with. As we've grown and as we've, enhanced our capabilities, it became apparent that there's this broader category of what we'll just call complex revenue. And specifically, it's revenue that hospitals think they're capturing efficiently with their general cost to collect and measurements in that regard. But when you dig into it, there's these little subcategories and segments within RCM where you're disproportionately spending time, resources, expertise to capture dollars. And in that lens, we've identified this vertical that we're calling complex revenue, which includes the core complex claims, but now recovery and these, sub denials basically that are really driving up costs and generally create a major ROI opportunity for providers.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for that. And again, excited for that growth for you all. I haven't had many guests yet on specifically in the complex claim space. So I want to focus on, if I get it right, the VA workers' comp,
Mhm.
motor vehicle, out of state. I get that right?
Correct.
So thinking about those four specifically, what makes those uniquely challenging for
Yeah.
healthcare providers?
They all kind of have their special issues, to be honest with you. But if I was going to give you kind of the overarching, similarity between them all, it comes down to a couple things: eligibility rules, authorization protocols, payer coordination, and EHR workflows. And so they each have their own special ways that they need to be treated, and none of it looks like your standard commercial billing or Medicare billing. So what it requires is a deep level of focus to make sure that you're hitting all of those things correctly. I can give you a personal anecdote on it, even just to help solidify on the workers' comp side. Believe it or not, I took a spill while out at a board meeting in New York a couple years back, and I had to
Oh
go get
no.
stitches. And so, you know, go in, get the regular bill. No one bothered to ask the right questions or do the care coordination at the front end to identify as workers' comp. So the provider, you know, works the claim, bills my commercial denies, and then they have to go back 45 days later and figure out, oh, it's workers' comp. Who is the workers' comp payer? How do we get in contact with them? How do we then process this claim? So, yeah, that's just a microcosm of the types of challenges that exist in all those claims classes. That one's just obviously personal and
Yeah.
easy to understand. Obviously, the irony of filing a workers' comp claim while working for a workers' comp vendor is
Yeah.
not lost on me.
You're just trying to generate more revenue. That's true
Exactly.
dedication right there from your C-suite.
Exactly.
No, it's I won't go into my sob story, but I had just an injury on my hand, but I had my first what I call like real healthcare experience as a patient
Yeah.
last year to ER and surgeries and stuff, and it's eye opening from a new perspective, right?
Yeah.
No workers comp or anything there, just me not being able to hold a glass of water, apparently. Yeah, I'm a clumsy dude. But uh, no, I think that's helpful. And I think it's easy to say, hey, all the payers in and of themselves are different and unique in their own beasts. But I
Mhm.
totally agree. And from what I've seen, the complex claims that you're describing here, it's a different skill set. It's like your
Yeah.
follow up rep and some different tools and databases I think you need to access to do that well.
Mhm.
I'll say it because Mike's probably too nice and doesn't want to sell his company right here. I'll say if you're in an organization right now that has enough complex claims and you're not outsourcing them, you should at least look into it. I imagine you'd be surprised in a good way of what some of these organizations that do this full time could do for you and the amount of cash you could bring in.
I 100% agree with you. It just requires a level of focus that doesn't make sense for most organizations, especially since 80% of the revenue comes from, more regular way commercial billing. So why wouldn't you find a partner that has all the fee schedules for all 50 states, or has a longitudinal database of every single workers' comp payer out there and knows how to contact them? I mean, to me, it's just kind of a really straightforward decision in terms of, focusing your efforts.
Yeah, put it this way: go talk to your workers' comp rep because they're probably carved out from your normal. That should tell you something in the first place, and then ask them if they have a database of all the workers' comp, if they know how to confidently and effectively coordinate and even reach some of those. And I think the answer is, oh my God, no, I would love that. So that right there
Yeah.
is telling. This show is brought to you by Real Partners Consulting, a free-to-provider vendor selection support company. We help healthcare providers find the right revenue cycle partners across technology, consulting, and managed services at no cost to you. If you like what you've heard from today's guest, or if you're looking for any other partner in the revenue cycle space, let us do the heavy lifting for you. Reach out to me, your host, Ryan Downs, on LinkedIn or at rdowns@realpartnersconsulting.com, and I will personally help you find the right fit. Now let's get back to the episode. For those who are keeping it in-house, is there any specific root causes, maybe within one of the four or all of the four, that you think are most common in terms of revenue leakage that they should be watching out for?
Yeah, I mean, like most things in RCM, it starts at the front end. If you're asking the wrong questions in registration, while you may recover the dollars, you're going to set yourself back 30 days or 40 days or however many, it takes to get it right. And so, you know, every single one of these claim populations has challenges. I mean, if you get it wrong there, obviously that cascades. VA is a great example. The appeal process is very different. You don't get a lot of at-bats there. The eligibility coordination on that side has gotten a little bit easier within Epic, but that still doesn't help you work the claim. And so, distilling each one of those classes down, there's just enough difference or enough variance outside of your standard workflows that any single misstep along the way will not kill the claim, but it will delay the payment of the claim certainly and create more, rework or more time from a specialist within the provider organization to go focus on it.
So more tangibly, is that something as simple as like an admission or check-in checklist of, was this injury work related? Like questions like that? Is
Yeah.
that where?
Sure. I mean, that'd be an easy thing to do, but I think the application becomes challenging. If you think about it in the context of, here, I'll give you a wild one. Let's say you have a motor vehicle accident. So that person comes in very obviously in a motor vehicle accident. The ambulance brought them there. But what if they were driving a truck for work? Or what if they were hit by, a delivery vehicle? So, there's just this very extended COB situation that exists out there that requires, a specialist to come in and unpack, you know, how you actually tier the payer responsibility.
Uh, I'm going to put you on the spot. If I drive Uber and I get into an accident, is that workers? Kind of.
I'm not a lawyer, but I'm going to go ahead and guess no, because I'm pretty sure that falls on your personal like chauffeur's license.
Yeah, I think they're 1099 is probably right. We'll fact check. I just thought, who's on the road nowadays? Uber drivers and delivery drivers. But yeah, I mean, I think even your example, if I were in your case and I had to get stitches because I slipped in a boardroom and it said, is this a work related injury? Because I feel like that's a term you see
Yeah.
sometimes. Well, work related? No,
Yeah.
no, work related. It happened
No.
in a boardroom.
Yeah,
Work-
but I was there
work-
for work.
Yeah, work located, but not work related. But when it comes down to the, qualifications for that, then it was qualified. So yeah, it's a fine line, I guess.
Yeah, no, like I said, there's just so much variance, and it requires such different pathways relative to the bulk of the claim flow that it, in my opinion, always warrants putting a specialist on it.
I think that makes sense. we talked about the kind of defining some of the complex claims
Yeah.
and some of the common problems, some of the reasons that it's so specialized. Let's talk metrics. So, what metrics should our healthcare leaders be prioritizing when they're evaluating their complex claim solutions and if they're underperforming?
Yeah. Look, it's the metrics are gonna be pretty boring.
Mm.
These are not like crazy KPIs for me to throw out there. I think big picture. Let's start at the top, right? So if you look at like what the AHA posts for errors related to eligibility and misrouted claims and things like that, you're talking about a 39 billion cost to hospitals every year. That's just from like you know those registration errors we talked about, from sending claims to the wrong place. So there's just a ton of dollars getting soaked up there. So that's the magnitude of the problem. If you start thinking about the KPIs that healthcare leaders should be tracking, it's denial rates, time to reimbursement, overall yield. There's no rocket science here. The reality though is that you need to get really deep in your data and be able to go evaluate by payer class. So can you identify the motor vehicle claims that you're working? Can you identify the workers' comp claims that you're working? And then once identified, can you actually get in there and track your denial rates, track your yield, track your time to payment? Those are the hard parts, right? Can you actually
Yeah.
track your cost to collect on those claims? Can you attribute all of the reworks or the second pass denials, or hey, I had to bring in my most senior biller off of a clinical denial because I had this $1 million auto accident that I need to go spend time on. It's those hidden costs that most systems, I'm not going to say can't do, but struggle to do well, just because again, it's this 10 to 15% of the RCM, revenue. Why would you go spend an outlandish amount of resources to go dig in there?
Yeah. No, I think 39 billion, that's a bit of a crazy number, but all the numbers are big, I guess, in healthcare. Uh, we often underestimate how hard it is to actually thoughtfully and accurately manage and report out on some of these metrics. Like when we talk about cost to collect and
Yep.
even things that we use terms like these every day. And I wish there were a better way to make them more consistent from organization to organization, because I think it's really hard to measure apples to apples, even in things where
Yep.
you go look on like, the Epic, what do they call them, where you can get like the trophies.
Yeah, I don't forgot about
Those dashboards. I'm blanking on the name as I
it. Yeah.
often do, but um, even those I think are a little bit different, right? When we just think about
For
like write-offs, well,
Yeah.
how the guidelines that organization A is using
Yeah.
to determine whether something's a avoidable write-off, let's call it, versus
Yeah.
organization B is not exactly
Yeah.
the same, and that's just a simple example. So when you get
For
to cost to collect, well, now you know what's included, what's not, right? Which
Yeah.
indirect costs are included. Um,
It
there's
seems like a very simple math problem, but the variance, it makes it challenging. From our seed and at least what we see, you know, 10% of your revenue, right, is eating up 30% or 40% of your resources, just because of the hidden burden that we've been talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you can't argue that math. Even if your 10 and 30 is more like 8 and 19, that's still a problem. That's still a misalignment. And not to mention, I imagine it is everywhere I've gone, at least the folks that are working on that, it's not their favorite thing to do. They usually feel like they're under resourced because they don't have some of the things that places like EnableComp do have access to. All right, so let's shift gears a little bit. As any good podcast host does, I did my homework on you a little bit, Mike. So I found some articles you've written or participated in, podcasts you've written, participated in. I got some quotes here. Can I put you on the spot? Can you read you some of these quotes and get your thoughts?
Go for it. Let's hope they resonate still.
They're good. They're good ones. Yeah, they're good ones. All right. So first one, here's the quote. True performance gains happen when hospitals treat complex claims as a strategic advantage, not a cost center. Tell me about that statement. What do you mean there?
Yeah, look, it's a great segue from what we were just talking about, right? Which
Yeah.
is you have real dollars sitting in these complex claims classes. And so if you're in a position where you can, step back and think about them as a strategic asset, meaning these are viable, payable claims, how do you go get them paid efficiently? Now you're taking something that was consuming labor and selfishly plugging in my business. But if you find a partner like EnableComp that can come in and manage those for you, you kind of get to win twice. And so that's why we view it as a strategic advantage. And what I mean by that is that not only can you now get what is a functionally lower cost to collect on those claims, and we will go do that work for you, those very senior people that you were occupying, that 30 to 40% that I alluded to earlier, they're now back on your commercial denials, or they're back on your clinical denials, or whatever large bucket, priorities you had. And so there's a strategic option in evaluating these where you can create ROI beyond just what my company will deliver, but ROI within your own labor force.
Yeah, some compounding advantages there. Yeah, if you were to consider outsourcing your complex claims, you would certainly expect an increased ROI specifically there, but it sounds like also what you're going to be able to do by shifting those resources and see an increase in other areas too. Well said. And I think the statement about not treating complex claims as a cost center
Mhm.
is a microcosm of what I think a revenue cycle is moving towards and what we're finally getting attention on. I think even just like 5 years ago, far too often leaders of organizations were thinking of revenue cycle as a cost center
Mhm.
and not a revenue generator, growth enabling, margin saving part of an organization. Are you seeing that shift too?
Look, the past 5 years, I think, is probably the right yardstick. I have never in my career seen so much focus on how do we optimize revenue within RCM. And more than ever, I'm seeing tools being brought to bear. IT resources being applied, partnerships being struck. It's a really exciting time. And instead of just kind of not to paint with too broad a brush, but I think there was maybe a blanket assumption in the last 10 years that my RCM just works. Like claims come in, cash shows up, it must be going great. And I think people are really starting to appreciate that there's a strategic focus required there, and you can really move and improve like the health of the hospital by doing this part of the world well.
Well, I'm glad to hear that from you too. I sometimes wonder if it's just me in my echo chamber hearing what I
Hope
want
not.
to hear, right? But I even see it like with CFO hires and job listings recently, where
Mhm.
it used to be more of a steward of finances, and they do incredible things that I don't understand outside of revenue cycle, and there's so much money that comes kind of outside traditional revenue cycle. But now there seems to be more of a focus on we'd really prefer a CFO that has revenue cycle background, or at the very least a good deep
Yeah.
understanding of revenue cycle. So that speaks much more loudly than me just saying what I'm hearing. But I'm glad you're seeing that too. And there's so many strong, great leaders and operators that have been in revenue cycle for a long time. And man, are they underappreciated. It's tough. It is really tough. I've done some interim leadership stints, and which is, probably only 1/10 of what it's really like. And even that, it's so tough. I have the utmost respect. So stay strong.
Look, I think uh, we really, as an industry, need to really do a better job of putting the spotlight on what are generally unsung heroes. I mean, this is not easy work, and you know you cannot deliver care as a hospital if you don't have the revenue coming in efficiently. And so I've met over the past several years so many new strategic thinking and forward-looking leaders in RCM, and so there really is a need to go shine the spotlight there and highlight what is truly incredible work being done to go make this health system work.
Yeah. Revenue cycle leaders. Mike
Absolutely.
and Mike and I, we see you. We appreciate you. We don't say it enough,
Yep.
but we do, and I know we're not alone in that. Keep doing the great work that you're doing. All right, I got another couple quotes here. So this
Go
one,
for
I don't know if this was a direct quote. I think it might have just been a summary of an article title or something like that. But I liked it, so I want to bring it. So this one, quote: "AI won't save you from bad claims strategy." So I think I know where you're going there, but I think it's simple and profound at the same time. What did you mean by that? Do you remember that one?
I do actually remember that one.
All
The irony of an AI summary getting turned in probably a better quote than what I said originally there. But,
right.
this harkens back to the old it's garbage in, garbage out. And so, just by bringing in AI, you're not going to deliver any results. AI, like every other tool in the toolkit, requires proper application. Successful AI in this industry requires a couple things. It requires a clean data set, a defined use case, and measurable KPIs or outcomes so that you can actually track the progress and make sure you're getting the benefit and the impact that you thought you were going to get. And so, historically, I'm seeing a lot less of it now. I think the market has shifted, as I said, kind of coming out of JPM, but I think a lot of people were just over enamored with, oh, AI can go do this. I just go get this and then AI will handle it. And it really, it requires a lot of strategic planning. It's a cross-functional leap to go make these things work. And so organizations that succeed in this are going to be the ones that bring in RCM, they bring in their clinical resources, they bring in their IT resources, and they define where in their workflows that they think they can create automation or where they think AI can help them uplift their revenue, lower their cost. It's not going to be enough to just like go buy a tool. You need to go put the organizational structure around it. Otherwise, it won't be successful.
Yeah, true partnerships, specifically as it relates to AI, but really as it relates to any partnership and any technological partnership, just so important. And I think a lot of people say this, right? I'll say it again. AI, though profound and exciting, is not a silver bullet. And because of the stuff that it can do, if you don't have the guardrails around it and you don't take the time to build it correctly, it can do a lot of bad too. Now, I think we in healthcare are very cautious of that to a point where maybe it even slows us too much. But yeah, I reiterate what you're saying, Mike. I think you got to go into this very thoughtfully. So, all right, I got one more,
So
one more quote specific to VA claims here, but I think it's another nice kind of maybe farther reaching one. So here goes. Interoperability alone won't solve the revenue cycle challenges that continue to burden providers.
yeah. So you may remember this, I guess probably almost a year ago, but Epic and a number of others kind of released in the VA, a suite of interoperability tools, specifically, identifying eligibility and getting access to the clinical data for VA claims. That's great. This is obviously a good thing. We want our veterans to have better access to care. We want this to be less burdensome for the system. That's a win across the board, 100%. Where that stops, though, is then the physical processing of the claim. That's still a burden. It is still challenging. There are still all of those same issues we talked about at the top of the hour here, related to those claim classes. And so those are a great step forward. It absolutely helps alleviate some of the burdens and the getting to the claim or getting the vet treated. But where it doesn't go far enough, right, is that you still need all the subject matter expertise in terms of how to manage the claims. A lot of the VA claim processes are manual or they're running on old tools and software. And, unlike commercial insurance, VA claims in most instances really only allow one appeal level. So it's not to say you don't have the tools or the capabilities to go get the claim right, but your risk of getting it wrong is pretty great relative to a commercial claim. So, yeah, really the emphasis of that quote is love to move forward. I love seeing more tools, opportunities, investment in delivering vet care. But the processing of the claim is still its own challenge. That's one where we believe and continue to believe that you need a specialized focus in order to process them efficiently.
Sure. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, we hit on a lot today, touched on a lot of good topics from AI to JP Morgan conference, recent acquisition, complex claims, Midwest football, of course. I think we've done about all we can. I want to leave you with the opportunity that I give everybody, all of our guests here. Final parting advice or thoughts for our listeners. What do you got for us, Mike?
Yeah, I'll give you a twofer here. On the professional side, I touched on this a lot today, but I really think it's critical for whether you're a provider or a vendor. It's establishing partnership. It's not enough to just perform a service. Long-term success in RCM and the enhancement of the space is going to require a concerted effort from a whole bunch of disparate groups finding ways to partner together and create better outcomes. And so I'm just really encouraged by what I've seen over the past several years in terms of the growth there. And I'm excited at the prospect of further partnership and further, frankly, success from AI being integrated into these. So I just think that's going to be one of the most important things any leader can do in this space going forward. And then on the personal side, I'm a relatively recent father here. So anyone out there who's also in that same boat, sleep when you can.
Hey, well, how recent? Congratulations.
I've got an 18-month-old at home. So
Oh, fantastic.
balancing the travel schedule and the sleep schedule is always a challenge with them.
Well, good luck to you. Yeah, I got one not too far off from that, my youngest. Well, congratulations. Yeah, that is important. I guess I'll recap it as this. We're in this together, Rev Cycle. Partners. We're in this together, people, families, moms,
Yes.
dads, kids. It's all a journey and it's better spent together. So, Mike, thanks for taking the time today. I think our listeners are going to take a lot out of this episode. And until next time.
I appreciate you having me. Really enjoyed it today.
That's a wrap on yet another episode of Vendor Voices. Huge thanks to our guests for their insights and to you for listening. If this episode gave you something to think about, share it with your team. If you'd like to suggest a specific topic or guest, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or at rdowns@realpartnersconsulting.com. Please rate and review, and be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode. I'm Ryan Downs. Thanks for tuning in.